I'm going to show you how to make 2 panels from the African Safari runner, and for that I'm going to be using my 5x7 hoop, some cutaway stabiliser, lots of pins around the edge of my hoop, a mixture of threads. I've got a matching bobbin to go with the thread that I'm going to be using for the silhouettes of the animals, and just a standard white one for the rest. I've got my squizzers, masking tape and my fabrics and batting cut to size. There are lots of different panels to this runner, and you've got a front panel and an end panel, and it's the end panel that I'm going to be stitching along with one of the animal ones. Now the beauty of this design is that you can mix and match as many or as few as you like, because every animal panel with the silhouettes is stitched in exactly the same way, and the front and end panel are also stitched in the same way. So I'm going to show you how to make the two, and you'll be able to make every single one in the set. So you're going to start off by hooping your cutaway stabiliser, and then you're going to pin around the top edge of your hoop. This is really important for this panel because there's a lot of layers of stitching to it, and it will pull it in if you don't. So to pin the top of your hoop, take your pin, push it, lay it on top of the hoop, push it through, bring it back round and back through the stabiliser, and do that. I've put 3 each side, 2 top and bottom, and 1 each on the corners of this, and I know it seems like overkill, but trust me, you will need them. Once you've done that, you're going to load the appropriate panel into your machine. I'm going to start off with the animal ones because I've already stitched the front panel. So if you're doing that, you'd start off with that one first and then work your way through the animals. So once you've loaded your file into your machine, you're then going to stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you your batting placement outline. I've loaded the thread that I'm going to quilt the bottom of my panel with, and this saves me from changing colour too often. And once you've done that, you can then stitch round number 1. Place your batting over the outline and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. You're now going to trim away the excess batting from around the edge. Take your 2 pieces of fabric, place your top one over the top box here, then place your bottom fabric, I'll just remove this piece of tape, face down, so you'll have right sides together over the top, and then you're going to tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 3, and that's going to secure these 2 pieces of fabric to the hoop. You're now going to trim away the excess fabric from here, but you want to keep the fabric on the edges. So trim up, and you don't want to go up right up to the stitch line either. It's just to remove the bulk. You're now going to flip your bottom fabric down and tape it in place. And you're also going to tape the top of your top fabric. You can now pop that into your machine and stitch round number 4, and that's going to secure the edges. Next is round number 5, and that's going to do the quilting on this bottom area here. So make sure you've got the colour thread that you want for that loaded into your machine if you haven't done so already. Load the thread colour that you want for the quilting at the top here into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 6. Load the thread colour that you want for the sun or the moon into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 7. Now before we go any further, I just want to say you can stitch as many or as few moons as you like in this design. If you don't want to put it in every panel, just skip the colours for the moon, and that will be rounds number 7, 8, 9 and 10. We're now going to stitch round number 7, which is the bottom half of the moon or sun. Round number 8 is the blend on top of the stitching that you've just done. If you wanted to, save yourself a couple of colour changes, you could skip colour number 8 and stitch colour number 9, which would be the top half to your sun or moon, and then go back and stitch round number 8 to do your blend. Now you can do 2 different colour blends, top and bottom, it's entirely up to you on this. So we're now going to stitch round number 8, and I've loaded yellow thread into my machine. I've loaded white back into my machine, and we're now going to stitch round number 9, and that's going to do the top part of your sun or moon. I've loaded the blend colour for my sun into my machine, so we're back to yellow, and we're now going to stitch round number 10. You're now going to load your thread for your animal silhouettes into your machine, and I like to use a matching bobbin for this. I just find that it gives a nicer, more dense, richer colour. And if your machine has problems with the thread showing through, this is an easy fix to get around that. So we're now going to stitch round number 11, and that's the animal silhouettes. Next is the water's edge, so I've changed my thread to black for this, and then you're going to stitch round number 12. I've added a little bit of tape here where the 2 fabrics overlap so that my foot doesn't get caught underneath as it goes back and forth along here. Change your thread to white, and the next colour you're going to stitch is round number 13, and that's going to do the reflection of the water. I'm now going to join the rest of my runner to this one. If you prefer to stitch them together on your sewing machine, that's absolutely fine, you would stop here. But if you want to join in the hoop, I'll show you my method. You might develop your own, it's entirely up to you how you do this, but this is how I do mine. I've rolled this up and I've put a couple of clips just to hold it neatly. I'm going to put this face down onto here. Now make sure that you get this the right way up. It's very easy to get it the wrong way round because we see blue for sky, so just double check before you actually go to stitch. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to turn this around a little bit so that I can see. I take a pin and I put it through the corner stitch, and then I do the same on the hooped one. I bring that down. Let me just turn this around so that it's a bit awkward with the roll there, but there we go. So I take a pin and I pin down the pin that I've just put through the corner, and that will just hold that there temporarily. Okay, so now I'll take another pin and I'll do the same, and I usually pick one of the lines. So I'm going to pick the third one up and put it through there, and I'm going to do exactly the same, 1, 2, 3 on here. Now let's I'm sorry if you can't see very clearly, but it will become obvious. So I'm going to push that through there, turn this over, and I'm going to take this pin out, and this is going to hold both the pins that I've just secured. And I'm going to do that all the way down here, so I'm going to do the same here. And then count 1, 2, 3 and push that through there. And secure that one down with a pin. And then the same for this corner. Turn it over. Now you will feel a little bit of resistance. That's because when you take anything out the hoop, it relaxes a bit. So you're having to stretch it a little bit, and that's the idea of these corner pins. They just stretch it into place. So now I'm going to pin this so that it holds both the pins. Okay. So now I can start pinning this in place. So I'm going to take one here, and where the quilting vertical line goes, I'm going to put one in there, and the same in here, and I'm going to pin that in place. There we go. So I'm trying not to stab myself. And I'm going to do the same this end. So that through there, and then through here. I'm doing it this way, everything lines up really well. Oops, I've just picked a bent pin. Just takes the guesswork out of it. Oh, my pins aren't playing. I think I need some new ones. Okay, let's try again. Yes, okay. So now we're going to pin down here, but away from the stitch line. Now the stitch line is going to come along here, about 3 mil to the right of this stitch line. So we want to keep all our pins right out of the way. And that's as close as I want them. Okay, so now I can remove these pins. And the ones on the back, we don't want to forget about them. I'm now going to pop this into my machine. I'm changing my thread to yellow so that I tend to pick the lightest colour if there's two fabrics, because it shows less when you open it out. So we're now going to stitch round number 14, and that's going to baste these two panels together. I forgot to mention I've added a yellow matching bobbin to this, and I've also slowed my machine right down. We're now going to stitch round number 14. You can now, if you want to, remove your pins and check for alignment, and if you're happy with that, you're then going to stitch round number 15. Okay, so before I free it from the hoop, I'm just going to open it out, make sure that everything's how I want it, and if you have a look along here, each and every single one of those quilting lines lines up beautifully. We can now remove this from the hoop and trim up the edges all the way around. So there it is, I've trimmed it up, and this is the back, and I've pressed this seam apart so that it all lays nice and flat. I'm sure you're going to have great fun with this. There's so much potential with it. With all there's 5 different animals. There's the giraffes, the hippopotamus, the wildebeest, the elephants and rhinos, plus the 2 end panels. And one says African, and the one we're going to do in a minute says safari. We're now going to stitch the end panel. So you're going to load the file into your machine, hoop and pin your cutaway stabilizer, then pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 1. And I've got my blue quilting thread in my machine already so that there's less colour changes. Place your batting over the outline and then tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2. Trim away the excess batting. Place your top fabric right side up over the top box. Then place your second fabric face down over the top and tape it in place. If you've got a fabric like me that hasn't got a right side, it doesn't matter, of course. Pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 3 to secure them. Trim away some of this bulk. Don't forget to leave your side bits. Flip your bottom fabric down. And tape it in place. Now do the same for the top. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 4. Make sure you've got the right colour thread in your machine, because next you're going to quilt the bottom part here, and that's with round number 5. Change your thread to the colour you want for the top quilting, and then you're going to stitch round number 6. Next is round number 7, and that's going to do the outline and placement lines for your fabrics of Africa. And I've loaded a gold thread into my machine because that's what I'm going to use from now on right through to the end. If you're going to do a different colour for your wording for the word safari, then you might want to put that colour in so that it's less thread changes. So we're now going to stitch round number 7. The African continent is now split into 3 distinct parts. I'll bring that up so that you can see what I'm talking about. You've got the top one there, then the middle one, and then the bottom and Madagascar. You're going to place your fabric for the middle section, and I'm using black here, over so that it overlaps this outline here. And make sure that it comes right past the edge here. Then you're going to place your bottom fabric face down over the top, and you want it right side to right side. Not that I've got a sense with this one, but now I will be using the same fabric for Madagascar as well, but there is an option to do that in a separate colour if you wanted to. So let's put a little bit of tape just to hold that in place while it stitches. Now put that in your machine and stitch round number 8, and that's going to secure the fabrics to the hoop. You're now going to flip your bottom fabric down. I'm just going to finger crease it there, and then place a little bit of tape just to hold it down and flat while it stitches. You're now going to pop that back into your machine and stitch round number 9, and that's going to secure the rest of the fabrics. Place your top fabric so that it straddles this stitch line here, and this one is going to flip upwards, so make sure that it covers your continent outline, and then you're going to tape it in place. Pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 10 to secure it. We're now going to trim off this excess fabric, so I'm just going to turn that round and just trim this back to a more reasonable length. We can now flip this fabric back. I've got bits all over the place. Okay, and we're going to tape that down. Pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 11. The next area to be stitched is the fabric over Madagascar. Now you've got 2 choices here. If you're going to be using the same fabric as your bottom one, which is what I'm going to do, you can just leave that down and it will stitch over, and that's it. If not, you're going to trim up around here so that Madagascar is exposed. So trim up all the excess fabric around here. Then you're going to place your fabric over the top, tape it down, and then you're going to stitch round number 12. So if I just trim this up, and this a little bit. So pop your fabric over the top, tape it down, and then stitch round number 12. We're now going to trim up all the excess fabric from both around Africa and Madagascar. You can now pop that into your machine and stitch round number 13, and that's going to zigzag the raw edges. Change your thread to whichever colour you want for the word safari, and then you're going to stitch round number 14. Change your thread to the colour that you want for the satin stitch and top stitching around the borders, and then you're going to stitch round number 15. So pin your panel as you did before, and remember to take the pins out of the back. Then you're going to pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 16 to baste them together. If you're happy with your join, you can then stitch round number 17. We can now remove this from the hoop, trim it up and press the seams on the back apart. And that's our panels completed, joined and ready to turn into a runner or wall hanging, whatever you like. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they're published. Do pop along to Kreative Kiwi's Facebook group. There's lots of ideas and help and inspiration there for everybody. And don't forget to check out underneath in this video description for lots of links and information. There's also a discount code for sim threads if you're interested, and that's valid until the 8th of February next year, and you can use it as often as you like. Thank you for joining me.